Good evening. Tonight is Monday, October 16th. It is now 7:03 p.m. and I call to order the North Andover SEPAC meeting. Thank you all for coming. I'll start with anyone with a public comment. Does anyone have a public comment before we start the rest of the agenda? If not, I'm actually going to ask if it's okay with the rest of the group if we take things out of order and we actually start with the Executive Director of Special Education update so that the folks that are here to present to us can do that first and they don't have to wait until the end of all of our business because we do have a lot of new things going on tonight, which is very exciting, bylaws and elections, but I don't want them to have to stay on all evening for that if they prefer to present first. Is everyone okay with that? Great. Marcy, thanks for coming.
Hey, thank you. So it's Cheryl Barzak. I don't think is going to make it tonight, but Michelle's here to talk more about, and I'll let her go first, and I'll carry into the rest of my stuff. So we will let her go with her busy schedule. For those of you who don't know me, because I think there's some new people here, I'm Marcy Pacuzzi. I'm the Director of Special Education here in North Andover, and Michelle O'Leary, who I'll introduce, is our wonderful Director of Social Emotional Learning, and we're happy to have her. One of the things that I know I've spoken to you guys a lot about, and when I think Meg asked a question, or someone asked a question a little while ago, if like we were going to address kind of the most crucial thing that was going on in our community and our school, what would it be? And it's like without hesitation, really the social emotional needs of the students. It really is, you know, I have said this many a times. I'm somebody I've only ever been in special education. This is my 26th year in special education. So, and I've always said, you know, kids are kids are kids. And I feel really strongly about that. But I do have to say of the last couple of years, 2 years, I do see a profound difference in the needs of students at all ages. And whether that is a combination of increased needs with a lack of resources, but our families from, you know, all avenues are feeling it in many different ways. So Michelle has been wonderful. Our counselors are wonderful. Our psychologists are wonderful, but they are kind of crippled by the needs at some point. I mean, people want to give 100% in those scenarios, and 100% of your day can be taken up by a crisis. And so crises are happening every single day somewhere. So I'll let Michelle talk about a partnership that we are, I wish at this point I could say complete, but I will say exploring and hopeful and just ironing out some contract details. But I'll let her talk a little bit about Care Solace and what they could potentially bring to the community.
Thanks, Marcy. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me, letting me come on and share about Care Solace. I've been in North Andover since 2008. I'm a school psychologist by training, and I spent, I guess it was probably around 8 years in the high school and then 5 years in the middle school before taking on this role. So as Marcy said, the mental health of our kids, this isn't just Massachusetts, this is right across the country, is most districts' biggest concern. And so we're trying to really do what we can do in terms of improving our services, increasing our services when we are limited with guidance counselors at the elementary school. We have one guidance counselor per school, and then, you know, middle and high school, we have more numbers, which is helpful, but we also tend to run into different, maybe more intensive crises. So one of the ways that we are hoping to help right across the board is through this agency, Care Solace. And it came to me last year, and then this year we were able to get a meeting in place with Marcy and Pam Lathrop and Cheryl Barzak. And basically what they do is they act as the case managers for anyone that needs any sort of mental health service. So right now we're running into, and if any of you have tried to get a counseling appointment or get any type of mental health service for your child, you'll know wait lists are 6 months to a year. Some are even more than that, or you just hear that we're not even taking anymore, not even putting people on the wait list. And it's been a real issue. And so what their job is when someone gets onto the website or calls the number, it can be anonymous, it can be from a guidance counselor or counselor in school, it could be from a parent. And you go to the website, you say, I need outpatient therapy, for example. That hooks you up with a case manager, and their job is to not stop working with you until you have an appointment, and they even follow up afterwards. So they'll keep going, looking for appointments. If they find one, or when they find one, not if, when they find one for your child, they then follow up after the fact to say, hey, how did it go? Are you happy with this person? Do you want me to continue looking? And it's really that wraparound that our counselors just don't have time for. I've been in that position of trying to find a counselor for one of my students, and it took half the day because I'm getting online, I'm calling different places, just saying, do you have any openings, and just going through. And then what happens is, even if I was lucky enough to find someone, the follow-up is a challenge because I'm dealing with many, many other things throughout the week. So to remember to then go to that parent and say, hey, I know your appointment was on Wednesday, how did it go? Just isn't happening. So Methuen is using this, Andover's using this. There's a ton of other districts in Massachusetts, across the country, that are using it. And I spoke with Methuen's director of behavioral health, and he said it's been a major time saver for our counselors, which is definitely something I was looking for. But the other piece of it is, this is a resource for any of our families who have children in the school district. So even if you have a child in the school district and you have another child that's gone to college, you can still use this service for that child that's gone to college. If you're looking for more intensive services, if you're looking for a partial hospital program, or in-home therapy, sorry, the dog, then you can also utilize this service. As I said, it's anonymous if you want, or you go about and give them your information. They are available in, I had in my head 30 different languages, but then I looked on the website again, and it actually said 200 different languages, in 200 plus languages, and they are available 24/7. So you could be having, a moment with your 15-year-old who finally decides, yes, I'm going to go to therapy. You can get online at 10 o'clock at night and get connected to someone, and take advantage of those instances, versus, okay, well, I'll call in the morning, and then by morning, your 15-year-old may be saying, yeah, no, I'm not going to do it. So I love how available to us they are. They are also available for our faculty and staff as well. And in fact, Methuen has they're in the process of signing a contract for the entire municipality, where anyone can use it within their town. We're not there yet, but I'm really looking forward to this partnership with them.
Just a quick question, Michelle. Thank you. That's a phenomenal resource. So does that mean just right now it's the students in the district can use it, but other municipalities, anyone who resides in that community can use the service?
If the entire municipality, we are doing just the school partnership right now. So it's as long as you have a child in the school district, then you can use it, and you can use it for yourself as well. It doesn't have to just be for your child. Yeah.
That's a really good nuance, right? So as a parent, and also for some of the folks that are listening, as a parent of a student that perhaps has other needs, it's really great to have that support and resources. Rachel?
Just curious, do you mind funding for this? Was it a grant that you guys obtained?
We are using a grant. The great thing about being in Massachusetts is there is so much money that's going into behavioral and mental health right now, which I'm so happy for. And so we are able to use this as a grant. But even if we didn't have that grant available, everyone was on board with
Right.
putting money towards it. They felt like it was a needed service.
And I
Just
believe it's one of
the
Cheryl's, yeah, and I think it's one of
sustainability.
one of the typical health grants. I don't think it's not a competitive, one and done grant that's coming out from, she's using some, I mean, that's what the majority of her grants do go to, these days.
Families and students get involved with a care personnel or a therapist through here. My concern always would be is if it ends, the brightens out or the grant stops and they've formed this relationship that we know is so hard to get. What we'd never want to do is push it off the ledge and say, oh, well, as a district, we don't offer it anymore. But it sounds like it's something you see Marcy staying long-term as much as possible.
But also their job is really, they are the connector. So if your child starts with a therapist, and even if for whatever reason, which I don't see this happening, but even if it was to go away, that therapist is theirs.
Yeah, if you move, it's still your therapist. Once you
Exactly,
with them,
exactly.
they don't
The relationship doesn't end if that care
Mm-mm.
coordinator, if
No.
for some reason the care coordinator ends. Okay, great. Thank you for that.
Stacey?
And
Sorry.
go ahead.
So you might have mentioned this and I might have missed it, and I apologize if I did. But if you do get matched with a therapist for your child, is it possible to arrange meetings in the school, like during school hours? Because thinking about Atkinson, we have a lot of families that probably would qualify, but wouldn't be able to get their children to something outside of school.
Yeah, we do. We have done that in the past in schools. I think it's a case by case basis.
Okay.
We have some students that are doing some virtual meetings in schools. Other students, we've had children's friend and family come in to meet with our students. So it's individualized.
Okay.
Because part of the problem is just to find the space in some of our schools
Right.
is tough, because you want a confidential space. But it's definitely, if the situation calls for it, where our administrators have been really open to it.
Okay. Thank you.
And I also wanted to say that they fully vet anyone that is on their list. They don't just go willy-nilly out into the world, and the person that's doing therapy in their basement is going to be reaching out to that
asked
person.
that question about 10 times in 10 different
Yes.
ways. So,
Yes.
because that was, if I had, and I said, I was transparent about it, because when they initially said, what was it, Michelle, like 500 providers in a 6-mile radius, it was something like unbelievable. We're like, really? Because we have trouble finding 6 people in a 6-mile radius. And they went through their vetting process with us. Not only that, when it does, their dashboard is pretty open. So if people see providers, and they may call us and say, listen, I had a bad experience or this and that, but they continuously vet their providers, check in their licenses and make sure, there's no outstanding issues with them. So that's something that's on them as well.
Is this something that the district can use as supplemental support? Like, for example, if each elementary school has one guidance counselor and students need more support than one guidance counselor can provide, is this something supplemental that you can then say, okay, let's arrange for our most, the students with the highest need and the least perhaps home support, to get that support through a third party in school? Is that something you guys have discussed or thought about?
I don't know that it can be necessarily used in that way, just because these are private therapists. They work with every type of insurance, Mass Health, all the private insurances, or even private pay, depending on what the family is looking for. I guess the way it could be supplemental is, as Stacey said, if we had a student seeing their person in school, but I don't think it's a way that we can sort of bring in another person. Separately, actually, within this grant, we are actually working right now on hiring someone who is going to be working with our elementary guidance counselors, just to be able to bring someone in to do some more tier 1, some SEL groups, and also do some, lunch bunches, that type of thing. Because our as you were saying, our guidance counselors, they're doing everything under the sun at the elementary level. At the upper and the middle and high school, we have more differentiation between, you know, adjustment counselors and guidance counselors and school psychs and all of that. So we are working on that through this. It's a behavioral health grant that Cheryl Barzak was able to get. So I'm feeling really good about that too, because we need more support.
I don't want to, I have one more question, but does anyone else have questions before I ask? Want to make sure everyone else gets heard. I just had a question about the grant process, since I think historically we've had perhaps certain people that were writing grants. How is it working now? Especially in terms of behavioral health or other support. Do we have someone specific that's focused on writing grants, or who does most of that work?
It's
It
really
ranges.
individual. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Marcy.
I mean, so there's entitlement, a lot of them are entitlement grants, which means they're the same grants every single year. So for instance, I obviously do all the special education ones. It's predominantly me, Cheryl, and Pam Lathrop. Those are the three primary people who would do the grants. Then there's the other pieces there'll be a technology grant, that would be Mike grant. But predominantly it's myself and Cheryl and Pam Lathrop. That's the majority of the funding that comes in through grants, through the three of us.
Do other districts have specific positions focused on grant writing, or is it pretty common that that's encompassed in kind of the three of your positions? Or
it's pretty common. The larger districts probably do. It would be pretty, I mean, we're kind of back to a normal chaos right now. When the grants were coming in terms of like COVID, and then all of a sudden there was, which was wonderful, but the money coming into the districts was majority of it came through grants. That definitely got a little hairy in terms of managing that.
Right.
Those unfortunately have gone away at this point. So you have your kind of consistent, you have your circuit breaker money, that funding that comes in, you have your 240, you have 262. So they're pretty consistent.
And I'm learning the new process, so I'm putting my feelers out constantly. I actually met someone whose parent was the grant writer for Lawrence Public Schools, or one of the grant writers. I don't know how many they had. So I said, I need to hang out with your mom and learn everything she knows. So you know, there's money out there. It's just finding the right fit, and so, you know, hopefully we can keep getting that funding. I'm hopeful with, I went to the State House last year for a meeting, and Mass is just doing a fantastic job of really improving their services across the board.
Thank you, Michelle, for all your work. Any last questions? No? Well, we appreciate it very much. Thank you for the presentation. You're welcome to stay on. You're welcome to leave. I know you probably have lots to do in the evening. You're welcome to shut your video off and listen and not participate, whatever your preference. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I've got to put my little guy to bed. Not so little, but younger guy. But feel free to reach out if you have any other questions or anything SEL that you want to chat about.
Thank you.
Take care.
Michelle's wonderful. Just as a plug, I mean, I tell her to her face, and I will just tell for a plug for you all. She's a wonderful resource in the district, and she is, because she's, you know, worked as a hands-on professional in the district too. She's got a lot of resources and really gets involved on like the kid level, you know, with a lot of scenarios. So she's wonderful.
Thank you.
And do you want me to continue, Sasha? Or do you guys?
Yeah,
okay.
That way, if you also want to, you're more than welcome to stay for the whole meeting, but also can go on with your evening. We're happy to let you do that as well.
So I know we just met, so I'm just gonna kind of give updates on the things that we updated a couple of weeks ago because they are sort of pertinent. So there is a parent correspondence going out. I don't know, you might have already, I don't know if Mike was going to get it out tonight or tomorrow morning. I held it for many reasons, mostly because I hate to send correspondences out on Fridays because I feel like that's when I get the least amount of input or eyes on it. So there's going to be a parent letter going out that's going to have a lot of this information in it that I'm going to talk about tonight. And the two things that are coming up in November are our special education review and the tiered focus monitoring. So they're two separate things that sort of overlap in the sense that we have the special education review is a private organization called Urban Collaborative that is coming in to review all of our programs in district. They have started their process of interviews, or setting up interviews, I should say, and scheduling. Their on-site days are going to be November 1st and 2nd. They will be in all the buildings. There are 4 people coming in to kind of attack this project. The elementary school teachers will be doing their surveys on Wednesday. So it's a combination of meetings in person and virtual, surveys, and sort of direct contact with these individuals. They also their contact information. So if parents want to reach out to them separate from the interviews and surveys and conversations they're going to be having, you're able to do that as well. There's open parent meetings that are going to be happening. They'll be meeting with SEPAC. So there's going to be lots of opportunities to kind of allow parents to talk about what their experience has been in special education in the district. Along with that, so that's one special education review. And again, there'll be a correspondence going out tomorrow that has a little bit more information about that. The other thing is called the tiered focus monitoring. Now it's just called monitoring. They've got, I don't know why they want to, now it's just monitoring. So every 3 years, the state comes in and reviews different things. So 3 years ago, it was policies and procedures in terms of special education, from evaluation process through eligibility. That was the focus. It's special education and civil rights. This year, it's more civil. This year, which is our next 3 years, is more civil rights and special education. But they do come in and look at our handbooks and our programs. Again, they also have interviews with parents and teachers. There's going to be they'll be sending out surveys. There's going to be a gentleman, I forget his last name. I do know his name is Moses. I can't remember his last name right now, is going to be joining us at our November 6th SEPAC meeting. And he will be going over more so what the tiered focus monitoring process is. And it'll be an opportunity to have parents ask questions about that process as well. And they will be in the district doing their observations on November 27th and 28th, and they will also be meeting with SEPAC. So we just happen to have 2 processes that, I mean, they give us the dates, and so we can't really say no. So they will be overlapping a little bit. So, but the end result of both of those observations and processes will be some great information for us to sort in good timing for us to build upon programming for the next and upcoming years. So we're hopeful we get that information. We're hopeful that we get a lot of parent and teacher input in that process, because honestly, that's the most important aspect of it, is that they do want to hear from parents. I will tell you that our last, I mean, I'm glad we're having I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys, so our last, again, it was over COVID, but our last parent meeting that we had 3 years ago, the one that we're having at our SEPAC meeting on March 6th, had 0 participants. So, you know, I want to give it that people don't have a lot of questions, but I think that they do. So it's a good opportunity. Again, I don't know how he said it's a, what I say to you, a 6-minute video. I think it's a 6-minute video explaining the process, and then like he'll offer 15-20 minutes for questions to families. So we'll be sending out a reminder for that. There's a press release that I posted online that will also be going out to families tomorrow. So more information to come about both of those things. I'm trying to let the specifics roll out as we get closer, because I know it's just going to get a little bit confusing for people because they're going to seem to overlap a little bit. But I'll be sending, as we get more information about that, I will be sending that information out to families.
Thank you. I think also, just for people who may not have been following along, so one thing is not something a district is required to do, right? So the special education review is the district has hired a third party, which Marcy explained is Urban Collaborative, and they're doing a review that the district wants to do that's separate and distinct from what DESE requires us to do, which is the tier focus monitoring. right? So just, I know you said that, but just to kind of reiterate that. So it's a little, they're different things.
Yep.
And they're both really, really, really important. And last year, SEPAC advocated very, very heavily for Urban Collaborative or someone that was a third party to come in and do that review to help us reflect on how we're doing as a district, where we're doing really, really well and where we could improve. So I know that myself and the other kind of members of SEPAC that I've discussed this with are really excited to participate, and we really hope that as parents you participate. This is an opportunity for you to really have your voice heard in both instances. Maybe with Urban Collaborative a little bit more open because they don't have a specific focus.
Yeah.
But you actually, this is one of those times where you think as a parent, oh, this is a large district, my voice doesn't really matter. Your voice really matters. So please participate. And I will keep saying that, but please participate.
And there'll be translated documents going out as well. They provide those for both the review and for the tiered focus monitoring. So we'll be getting that information out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
The next thing on our agenda for you, Marcy, is just kind of about IEP accommodations. So
Yep.
I think what we'd love to hear from is how, as a parent, we can talk at our IEP meeting about getting additional accommodations for our child in an IEP.
So in terms of, we're going to talk about, this is a great conversation, another opening, because I want to talk a little bit about the DCAP. I don't know if that made it onto the agenda.
It did with a link. Yep.
Yeah, so great. So there's two. So both those things, the DCAP and the accommodations for IEPs are two great conversations. So I keep telling, we're going to take the DCAP on the world tour in North Andover because 5 years ago, and everywhere I work. So anywhere I've worked, Rachel, please, and I hope you're going to back me up on this. If you ask teachers or anybody in a building what a DCAP is, they're going to say, I don't know, right? And so 9 times out of 10, maybe 10 times out of 10, that's going to be the answer. And a DCAP is super important because every school is mandated to have a DCAP. It's a district accommodation plan. Can I actually present? Because I made it a
Absolutely,
little.
please do.
I don't know, but I know I can. Now let's see. Oh yeah, this is just a super brief presentation. Oh, that's not the start. All right, I can't see you guys now, so just let me know if is it loading?
Yep.
No, that's the wrong. All right. So North Andover spent the year last year updating its totally antiquated DCAP. So what is a DCAP? And this is just kind of an overview, and I'll give this to you guys to post too if you want. This is just kind of just an overview. So teachers, all buildings, all levels have already had a more in-depth training on the DCAP and discussion and activities around the DCAP, because it does come with a lot of questions, but it is mandatory that all schools have DCAPs. And what it is allowing teachers to do is to address the learning styles of all learners in this classroom. So this is not when we're talking about IEP accommodations, and this is a lot of the conversations that we have, is that you don't need to have an IEP to have an accommodation. So these are accommodations that all students at any time can have and should be available to all students. So it is very teacher-friendly language. It's required, like I said, it's required by law, in that teachers are responsible to ensure that they are utilizing aspects of the DCAP. And what the DCAP is if you've ever heard this word before, multi-tiered systems of support. And what that means is that there are supports for students, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And what the DCAP is, it's a tier 1 system of support. So we're talking about things like, pieces that we've seen in IEP for years, like someone needs preferential seating. Well, anyone can have preferential seating. Maybe a copy of notes. Well, anyone could have a copy of notes. graphic organizers, things that have become commonplace in 504s and IEPs, which are not special accommodations. And so the important reason why we're talking about this and why I want to talk to you all about this is that it's important for teachers to know about it. It's important for parents to know about it, but it's super important for kids to know about it. It's really, really, really important for our students to understand what they have available to them in any class. And so we can help them be able to better advocate for what they need. Oops, that's just a video. We don't have to show that, but I'll leave that for you. Has anyone seen this video? And Shelley Moore, if you've seen any of her videos, she's wonderful. So in really understanding the difference between how a student gets an accommodation and on an IEP and what the difference between that is and what is a general accommodation that any student can have in the class. And so I thought there was more on there, but on the district accommodation plan that's online, that is right under academics on our web site, is dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of accommodations that any student could have at any time. So again, I'm looking for support from families, and we're looking for support to help our students really gain a better understanding of what they can have in context of a class. So that's, yes, Joe. Go ahead.
I didn't know how to do the thing. I didn't realize it would go instantly to you. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I have a question as a parent with a child on IEP.
Yeah.
So accommodations are available to all students. I talked about this in his own meeting the other day. I've gone over the things that he's allowed to ask for, like he's allowed to have graphic organizers and all this, and he wants to know what those things are. What does a student do though when they feel like he's like either afraid to ask, or they ask and they don't get the response that they want? Like, what's the support that we can give them to make sure that they get these things that are available to everybody?
Yeah. And I think that's the world tour aspect of it, because we want students to, in order for students not to feel like that, it needs to be ingrained into the culture of the classroom. So that's a really important aspect of how we get everyone to use it, is that it's just like, so when we talk about graphic organizers, there should be 5, you know what I mean? We want everyone to get up and have a choice of what they can use. So it needs to be part of ingrained of the culture of what's going on in the classroom. But there's also conversations that we can help. I mean, middle school element. I mean, I think the middle school culture lends itself to, I always say, you feel like, students, they're victims of the imaginary audience, right? Everyone thinks they're always looking at, someone's always looking at them. But in middle school, it's actually true. Someone is always wanting to look and comment on and say what's going on about who's sitting next to them. Gets a little better, I think, come 8th grade. But that's part of the discussion of what we're having in teachers, that it's just an expectation that it's happening and that students don't have to necessarily ask for it. So things like models, and like the end result of a problem, a completed problem, that's offered on the board. Those are all things that should be ingrained in the context of what you're doing in your class. Visuals, ingrained in the context of what you're doing in the class, because that helps everybody around them, not just the student who they feel like who teachers, back in the day may feel like is giving an advantage to. So that's one aspect. So then questions on the DCAP?
Rachel?
I encourage you all to look at the link. Rachel?
Yeah, thank you. I love the idea of the world tour of the DCAP.
See the
I'm
world
a
tour.
huge fan. I think parents need to feel empowered to literally print the document out and show up at your child's parent-teacher conference with it. That is truly the most effective way to utilize that tool, because you're not going to memorize it as a parent. That's just not possible, right? It feels dense when you're working through it. So a really good jump off when your parent-teacher conference is really quick. You can even ask your teacher, can you just identify, are there accommodations on here that little Sally is utilizing right now? Because a lot of the time a teacher will say, they're doing a good job. I just make sure I do these 18 things to make them successful. And every year I hear my friends, my neighbors say, I'm freaking out about them going on to the next grade because this teacher has really figured out things that have worked for my child. And you need a paper trail because it is the decap. Because yes, your hope is that the next teacher is going to use their decap and say, yeah, well, she figured it out for Shelley and now he's going to figure it out. Don't start from scratch. Have your teacher identify the accommodations that they've put in place right on the decap, and then you just go through each conference time and say, do they still need a stand-up desk, or are they more with the classroom now, and you're just using that to frame more specific conversations. It also, the more parents that show up with it, the more teachers, the cultural expectation is going to shift. They need to see that you have these documents at hand. They need to see that you're informed. They need to see that you know that it's on the website, that you're referencing it. It is a public mandatory necessity, and it's something that is really underutilized, I feel like.
It's really, there's no, like in special education, we ask why it's underutilized. It's not, I don't think it's not a purposeful underutilization. I think it is just a real misunderstanding of what, teachers feel like they can and cannot do sometimes. So I had met with the middle school.
And it's a ton of work, right? Like let's be honest, it's a ton of work in a classroom to provide accommodations for every child and every piece of neurodiversity in a classroom of 20 to 22 kids. So a lot of the teachers do it. They don't even know they're doing it.
Yeah.
And they don't even realize they're doing these accommodations for your kid. And a lot of them just are, but it's important they know that they're doing a component of their job they're expected to.
And last week, Michelle and I met with the middle school guidance counselors, because they've our middle school guidance counselors really want to empower teachers, empower students. So when you talk about the printouts, like they're like, please, let's make posters for all of the classrooms that have them in there, almost like in a way that highlights the ones that that students can kind of highlight for themselves and see what they can use. So in the conversation is, I know it's one of those things that seems like it's more work, but in actuality, it is less work. It becomes less work if you're providing the accommodations in class for what students need, and to address those diversities. Your job is going to be a whole lot easier, not more difficult. So it's trying to spread that awareness of it. But again, we're going to continue the world tour. It should be in your, I asked principals to add it to their weekly correspondences that they send out. So you should be seeing it, and to keep on doing it, and to keep guidance counselors are going to attach it to their signatures. So it's on there. So it would just, right now, it's like just really publicizing it. It'll take some time. It'll take some work, because I know someone had already brought up a concern over, is this a way to reduce the amount of accommodations on an IEP or a 504? And the answer is absolutely not. I mean, that's not what the intent of it is. The intent of it is to give more students access to more accommodations on a daily basis, and to empower them to understand their actual needs and profile, and what makes them, the best learner that they can be. So those are all conversations that we'll continue to have, but we're excited about, teachers seemed excited about. It's a very nice working document. So we'll continue to have more conversations about it.
Thank you, Marcy. I think Christy has a question, and then I have a couple.
Yep.
Christy?
Perfect. Thank you so much. Marcy, I quickly pulled up the link, and I just want to make sure I understand. So this list of things, and I'm only focused on the high school because that's where my children, have been most recently and are currently. This applies to every student in the high school, not someone who's gone through any type of evaluation or
Correct.
has accommodations?
Correct.
Okay, so can I ask, and I maybe misunderstanding, but in the third column where it says action and expression, the how of learning, and it's like provide alternative methods, or this, or give extended time if it's not, if that doesn't contribute to the factor, like if that's not what you're trying to test them on, right? It's the speed.
Yep.
Who gets to determine that? Because I will tell you that when my daughter, who's now a junior in college, sat there after an evaluation in high school, and they knew that she expressed high levels of anxiety in time-based situations, which was basically every single test, because when the bell rang, tests go back to the teachers. And they said, well, just ask a teacher. We reached the point where my daughter was having physical sobbing breakdowns during exams her junior and senior years because of the time constraints, and was told, well, if you just ask for time, and the teachers flat out said, you're not on any type of accommodation plan, I can't give you that.
Yep.
So am I misunderstanding, or the teachers are that unaware that if a student needs more time, or do individual teachers get to decide whether they think it's time-based or not?
Well, they would get to determine whether the assignment was time-based or not, whether time is a factor. So I couldn't comment on that. But to go back to your first, I think in some cases it is, just truthfully, people are unaware.
And I think for Marcy, your role is you as the special ed director get caught in a little sticky situation because it is technically a regular education initiative. So
Correct.
when we're thinking about who that person is that needs to be informing the staff, it is the building-based principles. Correct, Marcy?
Correct.
It is a DCAP falls under the regular education expectations in the state of Massachusetts. So definitely that's a teacher issue. And then above that is whoever oversees your regular education teacher, which is your building principal, who are very involved and very informed in the process of a DCAP.
So just to kind of play off that, Rachel, because my question to you, Marcy, or maybe you can help, is really just about enforceability. So two questions is where should we direct families to go if they're in different scenarios? So if they're part of they don't have a 50, their student does not have a 504 or an IEP, should we direct them to go directly to the building principal, or who should they go to?
Building principal.
Okay, and then if they do have a 504 or an IEP, should they go directly to their team chair and call a team meeting, or do they go first and say, hey, this isn't in the IEP, but this is part of the DCAP, my child should get this accommodation? Or is it not enforceable and up to the discretion of the teacher because it's actually not listed in the IEP? And obviously we know the IEP is an enforceable document.
Yeah, so with 504s, you go to your guidance counselor. That's definitely and then I would say for any accommodations even regardless of whether you think it's DCAP or should be part of the IEP, I think you go to your team chair. So if you're having a conversation in terms of special education, I think you err on the side of it's going to be a need and a potential accommodation in terms of the IEP. If it's a 504, if you're a student on a 504, you direct your question to guidance. And if it's a neither, you direct your question to the building principal.
Okay. Those are my questions. Does anyone have any other questions about DCAP or IEP accommodations at all?
We can talk a little bit more about IEP if you
Ashley.
guys want, because I know there was a little bit more. We can talk a little bit more specifically about that too, because I'm sorry, did I just interrupt somebody?
No, so I was just going to, Ashley had a question in the chat. I don't know if you guys.
Oh,
can
no,
see
go
it.
ahead. Sorry.
It says, can pieces that the kids utilize from the DCAP be added to IEPs?
They don't need to be. So I think that's part of the conversation of some of the struggle as we go through this process. We may have some challenging conversations. The thing about an IEP is that we don't want to have general good classroom practice in as an accommodation. If it is something that a student needs that they're using consistently and they need it in terms of moving forward this is going to come up in both 504 and IEP, because the place that you will see some good teaching practices that we're not going to call accommodations, but do need to be in some of our testing accommodations. And when you talk about those aspects of it, so there might be aspects that don't show up in an accommodation that might have to show up in like MCAS, because but they have to be utilizing them all the time. That's the difference. So it's not to say like, oh, there's something available in class. Like, I don't know, let's say just use a graphic organizer to use that as an example. So if that was something that a student we would like, in order to use an accommodation on a state level test, you need to show that you consistently use that accommodation. So that was where there might be some differences. Rachel?
Thank you for mentioning that, Marcy, because I think exactly what you're saying, graphic organizer, quiet seating,
Yeah,
familiar trust administrator,
separate,
those
yeah,
are all
separate
going
setting.
to have to go on your 504s and IEPs. So I don't think it's a cut and dry answer. I also know from a parental perspective, there's clearly an enforceability issue right now. Until it is a more universally and culturally utilized document, as a parent, you also need to err on the side of making sure your child gets what they need immediately and
Yeah.
not until it's more widely being used. Nobody wants their kid to be the guinea pig, right? So with the understanding that that's the what we want to transition to is the ideal, where everybody's getting what they need first through the DCAP, recognizing that some of those accommodations per state law are going to have to go into 504 and IEP, and then making sure as a parent you're comfortable with what's in the 504 and the IEP,
Well,
because your
and I,
child can't wait.
and part of the discussion that we've had is that if you're going to have this discussion, it better be well known by everybody sitting at that table, the teacher, the parent, the student, what they are actually using consistently. So like, it's not a, oh, I've used it sometimes, or like everyone at that table will need to know that something is happening on a consistent basis before it's coming off some sort of documentation. So that's, we've had those conversations with examples. Like you need to come, like saying to the teacher, like you need to come to the table with examples of where this is happening and how this is happening.
Okay.
Are there other questions?
No. Thank you, Marcy. That was really helpful for me. And I was not aware of the DCAP, and really appreciate, I think as that world tour happens, we're going to see classrooms that are better for all students, and especially probably our students. And so I really appreciate that. All right, I am going to move on to old business, back to the front of the agenda. Marcy, you're more than welcome to stay. You're also more than welcome to go if you have things you need to do, or turn your camera off and do whatever you need. We appreciate you being here always. You're always welcome, but also we know that you are very busy and do a lot of things. So
I appreciate it. I'll hang in for a bit.
okay, thank you. So let's circle back to old business. The first item on that piece of the agenda is the basic rights presentation. I'm going to try to go a little bit more quickly, since we had some amazing and robust discussions that were not accounted for in the timeline, and I want to respect everyone's time. So we'll go a bit quickly through old business, and we'll start with Rachel, just giving us kind of the recap of the basic rights presentation.
Okay, it was fantastic. It felt great. Attorney Lynch helped us out, had a great PowerPoint presentation. She and I feel like hopefully parents felt like we had a nice collaborative discussion from both an attorney's perspective and the law and what Holly enforces as an attorney, and then me trying to pepper in any parent concerns and elaborate. There is no possible way to get through all of the basic rights information that a parent needs in that one session. We did record it. I believe it's going to go up if it hasn't already. I did not watch it because I do not enjoy watching myself on record. But please review it. We look forward to having it every year, and I think we had like something like 19 people come. It was great. So we got a lot of great feedback. I'm thrilled, and hey, if there was a need or a want, I think would love to do it again at some point if people were happy. Oh, you dropped it in the chat. Oh God, at some point I'm going to have to watch myself, I suppose. Thanks, Meg.
Thank you, Rachel. We really appreciate it. And if anyone has questions, please do review that meeting, or always you can reach out to us at hello@northandovercpac.com. The next item on the agenda is November SEPAC Awareness Month. So we are psyched. We are doing a lot of planning. Last year, there's a couple components. So first is, last year we did a flag raising. I'd love to poll you guys and kind of get some more information on whether or not we think that is something we want to do this year. That would require us to request at the select board meeting that we are able to raise the flag on the common. I do know that another group has already requested, and I didn't watch it to see if it was approved, but they have requested that the Israeli flag be flown until the 9th of November. And my preference is that I think that's pretty important. And so my preference is not to ask, anything that competes with those dates. They've already been requested. We could request to do this for just SEPAC Awareness Week, that week where we have SEPAC Awareness Day. Or we could perhaps talk to the district and see if we could fly our flag at the district building across from Kittredge instead. That is an option as well. And the one item here is that our flag is actually our logo from last year. We've rebranded, if you have not noticed. So we would also need to spend funds on a new flag if we so chose to do that. So it's really happy to have any discussion about that if you would prefer. Joe, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just FYI, I think actually right now the select board is discussing some new policies. So they're updating their policy manual, and that includes updating their flag policy.
Okay.
So the process is going to probably change tonight in terms of how flags get flown. And I don't know all the details around those. I'm still trying to figure those out. But you'd want to definitely reach out to the chair of the select board to get like an idea of like what can happen.
Thank
So
you.
just know like it's in flux as we speak.
Yeah, no, appreciate that heads up. Really appreciate that. I wasn't tracking it. Marcy.
I can't remember how big the flag is, but if you're looking for just an alternative place for the flag, I would love to have it in the special education space at central office. I think that would be a nice landing place for it if you do end up rebranding. So I'll just put that out there. The second piece is that, do you have because we had been sending the old CPAC information with the old logo with the dates on it out in just hard copies when we send out paperwork for initial evaluations from central office. So if you have even just the flyer with your contact with like the hello information on it, it doesn't even have to have anything else on it. If you want to send me some of those, I'll print them out in color so we can start getting those out to new families too, because we're still using, I think we just stopped because it just had the old dates on it.
We can absolutely get that to you. And one of the things that we've been discussing and we will do in conjunction with that is we really want to produce a similar document and keep some for all of the teachers, because I also think sometimes they're the first line of defense just for parents. Parent comes with a concern, not in a formal team meeting or whatever else. And they can say, hey, if you have questions, also you can reach out to SEPAC, or if you need support or a parent to talk to. So I think we're gonna do that. So we could use that in both cases most likely, but we'll get that out to you hopefully this week or next.
Whenever you have a chance.
Thank you. Rachel?
Just to move us forward, I don't know if we have to have a vote on this or not. I don't know that stuff, but I think it's a good idea to go forward with flying it at central office in that location and do it for the entire month. But that way we're not infringing upon anything else being flown in the common and don't even have to go that direction. But I think the month of November at central office would be nice.
Okay. Marcy, I want to make sure I can go back and see what flag I ordered last year, but could you let me know what size flag you prefer to be flown at central office as well?
Oh, well, it would be hung probably. It would be hung in central office.
Hung in central office.
Yeah. Is there, I don't even know, is there a flag, like there's gotta be something outside central office.
Yeah.
I don't, I'm sure there's rules to that I don't know about too. So let me find out about that. I was thinking, if you were to get a new flag, that I would take that flag and hang in central
In between
office.
and hang it in the in
We'll
between.
post it, but that's why I wasn't sure how big it was. I don't know if like things appear bigger.
The yellow one we have is huge because it was printed.
Okay.
It was for the common.
Okay. Yeah, forget it. Right.
It's very large.
Right. So let me find out. Let me find out about central office. Again, I'm sure that there's like there are about any flag situation. I'm sure there's rules around that flag too, but I'll find out.
Excellent. And then we'll have some presence just to kind of make the general membership aware.
Yep.
And I guess we'll kind of figure it out based on what we hear in the new select board policies at the common, and we'll figure it out. So we'll have some kind of representation. On November 14th, please mark your calendars. That's a Tuesday night. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. my sincere apologies. We are going to be having an event right now. So we've reached out to the businesses in the area on 114 where Time and Cookie Monster is. So we have already received permission from Cookie Monster and Time that they're going to donate a portion of their profits on November 14th to SEPAC. We're also going to have a raffle in the kind of the room at Cookie Monster, as well as a 50-50 raffle. So we're really excited about this. We did this on High Street last year. There was an awesome turnout. We're also working with Rachel Bedard to produce new SEPAC gear that is awesome. You can thank our in-house designer, Lauren Stedman, for creating really amazing, and Meg too, I think there was some collaboration, some amazing new designs, some really like diversity is cool, the future is inclusive. I think one of them got featured on our Facebook page, some play on that with our SEPAC logo. So on November 17th, it is SEPAC Awareness Day that was declared by the select board last year. It's an official day in the town of North Andover. And so we are going to ask all of the schools to wear yellow or SEPAC gear. So they, if you know, if they don't want to purchase SEPAC gear, just wear something yellow or the SEPAC gear from last year. And we'll have some new stuff out this year as well. We're hoping Rachel can make it on November 14th that night. I'm not sure. I haven't been able to confirm that with her yet, but she's such a great ally to us and does an amazing job, and typically will donate a portion of her proceeds as well. We're really excited about it. So please mark your calendars. And we're working on some other SEPAC Awareness Month events and promotions. Marcy.
Did you say a time for the 14th, or are you still working on a time?
We're working on an exact time. I think Cookie Monster, I think, is 3 hours.
I appreciate your correct enunciation of Cookie Monster.
Right? I knew you would. Danvers was their original, wasn't it?
Yes.
So I think they're 5 to 8 was Cookie Monster. I think Time is all night. So you can go for dinner at Time, then go get your Cookie Monster. And by the way, one of the owners of Time, one of their daughters is a Thompson, is in the Thompson school, and they're lovely and super energetic and excited about this event. So, Rachel.
I have also reached out to a lot of local business owners for the raffle, but if anybody has any leads on local business owners, or anybody has any items they want to donate, if anybody's got a hookup on tickets, things like that, I'm hit me up. I will coordinate it and pick it all up and do what I can to get my tentacles out there. I've reached out to everybody from Restoration Barbershop. Anthony's always great. Bella, the dance company there, they're all willing to participate again, which is great. But just shoot us an email if you have any other options.
Yes, we would really appreciate it. High ticket items, perfect. And then Lauren and Meg too.
Sorry, you have a hand raised, Sasha, from Megan.
So I also I make like custom tumblers and decals and things like that. So I wouldn't mind donating some. We can come up with whatever and we can make something and donate it.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe at like a North Andover gear one or something. People love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. That's very generous. We appreciate it.
Of course.
That's great. Lauren, do you want to talk about the event with Tri-Town?
Yes, so I met with Jackie last week, who's the president of Tri-Town SEPAC. And then she presented our idea of having December 8th be our ladies' night out, which we're really excited for because the tentative time of December 8th, which is a Friday, is a nice time right before the holidays to have all of us ladies and gentlemen, if you really want to come out, join us, ladies, right before the craziness starts to take care of yourself. So the message is really about self-care and wellness. And RN Aesthetics in Newburyport will be our location. And RN Aesthetics has actually agreed that all 3 of their locations that night, which is Salem, Linfield, and the Newburyport, from 4 to 7, will be giving us back part of the proceeds that they make from services just to give you an example, 25% from retail. But for services, there's a breakdown all itemized of what we will get back from that as well. But ultimately, we find this a really good experience to also partner up with Tri-Town because it'll give us not only a much broader kind of expansive way to combine with another CPAC, but also really when it comes to fundraising, kick off with a nice holiday event. So we're looking to have charcuterie, some past hors d'oeuvres, but make it a really nice fun time for everyone to get together and kind of take care of yourself before you take care of everyone else for the holiday. So Jackie and I are going to be meeting next week again to iron out just more of the logistics. We're looking to sell tickets. We want to make sure again that with our count and who we're hosting, that we're holding ourselves accountable. So that will also be something that we discuss in further detail. But if anyone has any suggestions or things they'd like to see, please reach out to myself, to Meg, on kind of what you'd like to see out of the wellness event.
Thank you. I'm very excited about that. They have you can go on their website and you can also look at their service offerings. So they'll have private rooms reserved. You can get services that night as well. It seems very wonderful. So next on here is our website. Meg, do you want to talk a bit about that?
Sure, it is moving along so quickly. We chose a great web designer and she sent us the mock-up today. And I think it's looking so good. It's simple, but yet like robust and has a great amount of information on it. And she really understood our vision. So once we move forward with like giving her approval and stuff, it should be up and running very, very quick, very soon. So it's really exciting how quickly we got that done.
Thank you, Meg. I think we'll be on target for, we wanted this done by November. I'd say at least the beginning of November is absolutely achievable right now. So we're really excited about that. And for those who may not have tuned in before, we made sure that we found a designer that could make a fully accessible website that would adhere to WCAG standards, which we feel really passionately about. So we're doing our best to make sure we do that. I know that's also for anyone who kind of is in that world, that's very much a moving target, but we're going to do our best to try to kind of figure out what best practices are today and then try to keep up with those best practices so we can be as accessible as possible to all people. Okay, so let's move to new business. We have the second reading and vote on the revised bylaws. The revised bylaws are in the chat, right, Meg?
Yes, they are. They're the Google
They've been in the chat since the beginning of the meeting. We went through the revised bylaws last meeting with the proposal. We walked through and discussed all changes. I just want to make sure before we have, do we have any comments, questions, or proposed revisions to the bylaws before I ask for a motion? Okay, so hearing no further discussion, can I have a motion, please?
I move that we approve the revised bylaws as written and shared in the chat.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the revised bylaws have been approved and become effective immediately. So if you have any questions about how we operate, this was a bit of a big change in terms of how we're operating in bylaws and making sure we were as clear as possible so we could run effectively. I anticipate that as we continue to grow and change, that we may have some more changes in the future and potentially, make a couple adjustments in our May meeting in the spring based on this year. But I think for now, this is an amazing start. And I want to thank the team for kind of working on these and being part of this discussion. So thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. So part of the revised bylaws tell us that our elections typically happen in May. However, the executive committee has the authority to, at their discretion for a reasonable circumstance, move those elections to any date no later than October 31st of the same calendar year. Based on that, we are going to have our elections today instead of May. We did not have them in May. However, going forward, we will have elections again in May. So we're going to get back into the appropriate cycle. So elections will happen tonight, as well as the appointments for liaisons, and then a second, a set of elections, even though it wouldn't have technically been a full term in terms of calendar year. We'll have them again in May to kind of get on that appropriate cycle. So the executive committee is established and prepared, can take the summer to prepare, and then hit the ground running in September during the school year. Does that make sense? Okay, so we will start with the, I'm actually going to take it backwards. We're going to start with any nominations for members at large. And you are welcome to nominate yourself. And also, members at large do not need to be nominated in terms of, those positions do not need to be filled. That is not a requirement, but they are there if someone would like to make a nomination. Hearing no nomination for a position of members at large, I'm going to assume that those positions will not be filled this year, and we're going to move on to the Public Relations Chair. Do I have a nomination for Public Relations Chair?
I'm not supposed to nominate myself, I don't think, but that's my position.
Here, I'll
Right.
nominate
Okay.
Meg
Thank you. Thank you.
O'Neill for the position of Public Relations Chair.
Do I have any other nominations? Hearing none, do I have any discussion? Meg, would you like to say anything, or would anyone else like to say anything as part of a discussion?
I completely support the nomination.
Thank you for the nomination.
Okay, so all we need for someone to be elected is a simple majority. I am going to ask, we're going to do a simple voice vote, but if we hear any opposition, then I'll ask everyone to use the raise hand button in your Google chat. All those in favor of appointing Megan as Public Relations Chair, please say aye.
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 Any opposition? Hearing none, Meg, you are the Public Relations Chair. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you all.
We'll now move on to the position of Treasurer. Would anyone like to make a nomination?
I would like to nominate Zora Warren.
Do I hear any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor in Zora Warren becoming the treasurer, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, thank you, Zora, for your service. You're now the treasurer.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the position of secretary. Do I have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Rachel for the position of Secretary.
Any other nominations? Rachel, or would you like to say anything, or anyone else?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, hearing no other nominations, I'll take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposition? Hearing none, Rachel, you are elected as secretary. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
We are now on to the position of vice president. Do I have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Lauren Stedman for vice president.
Do I have any other nominations? Hearing none. Lauren, would you like to say anything? Would anyone else like to speak? Any discussion?
I would just like to kind of give a quick snapshot to the parents that especially I may not have met or know along the way about what my background is in. So I have two sons on the spectrum. I'd like to lend myself as not only the vice president to this organization as a SEPAC, but to you as parents. So please, I'll share my email in the chat. I run a parent support group for kids on the autism spectrum, 10 years and younger through the Northeast ARC. I'm a family ties mentor at the Federation for Children with Special Needs and becoming a surrogate parent. So that's through the IEP process for those kids that are in the system through DCF. And I am about to complete a family advocate series through the family leadership as well. But most importantly, I just want to lend myself as a support to anyone that has questions regarding autism, being a parent of autism, but especially through our group as a resource.
Thank you, Lauren. Hearing no other nominations, I'd like to take this to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Lauren, thank you very much for your service and your wealth of knowledge, and we're so excited to have you. Okay, so the next position is for the position of president. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate Sasha Weinrich for president.
Any other nominations? I'm actually going to ask that Lauren, you just, if you could ask for the vote, because I am the one being nominated as vice president, I'd appreciate it.
All in favor of Sasha as president, please say aye.
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 Okay, with no naysayers, congratulations, Sasha. We look forward to your leadership as what you've already done throughout the last 6 months, but we look forward to the future as well.
Thank you. I am very honored. I'm very excited for this executive committee. I am so excited to have this showing of parents, and I am so excited to have more liaisons and participation. I think that we can do remarkable things for this district and for our children, and I really believe that, and really hope to work with all of you to be able to be supportive and support our children the way they need to be supported. Okay, so liaison appointments. So one of the things that is outlined clearly in our new bylaws is that each school may have a liaison. The description is in the bylaws. I think all the folks here who have volunteered for those positions are aware. We are going to move forward with liaison appointments. I'm going to read them out. I'm going to read your first names just so I don't butcher all of your last names. I would ask that when I read your name, you raise your hand in consent, that you consent to this appointment, and then I will ask for a vote of a newly elected executive committee to confirm those appointments, and then we'll discuss what other schools we have available for liaison positions. There's a couple that aren't filled, and then I think we can kind of discuss any questions you all may have. How does that work? Good. So we are excited for the following liaisons to be appointed tonight. Megan for the ABECC, Adrian for Atkinson School, Allison for Sargent, Kristen for Thompson, and Erin for NAMS. And is there anyone else that I'm missing? I think those are the folks that are here tonight. So to the executive committee members, I will just ask for a verbal yay or nay vote. So all those in favor in the following appointments for school liaisons, please say aye.
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 And that does it. All in favor. Thank you so much, everyone. Are there any questions?
Is it Kittredge in high school? Is that who's missing?
Kittredge, Franklin, and the high school.
Franklin.
Yes.
It's Kittredge, Franklin High School. Okay.
I think we may have some leads on Kittredge, but we have to get back on that. I think we just didn't have any the ability to attend tonight. So those are the big openings. If you have any friends in those schools, please do let us know. We would love to have someone at each school so that we can make sure that we are a presence there. Any questions from liaisons? I think we'll have a separate meeting as well pretty shortly, and we'll reach out to you. If everyone could put their best email in the chat for us so that we have the best way to contact you, we'll create an email group and make sure that we have a time that we can kind of just jump on a Google chat or Google Meet. I keep calling it Google Chat, a Google Meet, and get on the same page. Thank you. And anything else before I move on from elections, bylaws, or liaison appointments? Okay. The next item is the president's report. So the first item on the agenda is just a school committee meeting. Alyssa and I have been speaking, and I should have introduced you earlier, but Alyssa and Joe are both here from the school committee. We so appreciate that they are here and continue to be here and be so supportive of us. We're really grateful for both of them and their advocacy. And so thank you for being here. We typically do at least one presentation to the school committee each year. And so Alyssa and I have been talking about those dates. I think we talked what is on the potential for right now.
So I think we are shooting for our next meeting, which is November 2nd.
Is that a Thursday?
So we have a meeting this Thursday, and then, but of course that's very short notice. So we're looking at November 2nd.
Is there a possibility for the meeting after that by any chance?
I can certainly speak with the chair. Joe, do you have that date offhand?
The meeting after will be the 16th.
I apologize for that because you mentioned the 2nd and I did not provide that there was a conflict. But I recall that I booked a trip to Great Wolf Lodge for my son's birthday when they had a big sale over the summer that I completely forgot about.
Must have blocked that room, blocked that out.
And I think it's for Friday, but I think we'll leave Thursday night. So I apologize.
Get your priorities straight, will you, Sasha? God.
Those dates are, no.
How dare you?
Okay, so I'll see about getting you on the agenda then for the 16th.
Thank you. I apologize for that. Does that work for the rest of the executive committee, the 16th generally? Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. So the other item on the agenda is just budget planning. So typically what the goal would be is during that meeting to present to the school committee what we're looking at for a budget. So what are our administrative costs look like? And then also in addition to that, what are we planning in terms of programming for the spring? So we're doing a lot of fundraising this fall. We'll have, we had our basic rights presentation. We'll hopefully do one more presentation before the new year. And then we're going to want some larger presentations in the spring. So I would really love to hear from parents. Feel free to reach out to us separately or to interject now. If there's anything in particular you'd really like to learn more about, a specific person you would love to come present or us to explore coming to present, or anything else along those lines, please feel free to reach out to us and we can make sure that we do some of that research, speak to Marcy, and then also speak to the school committee if any of that is helpful. Ashley.
Okay, so I don't know if this is the appropriate time to ask it, but as a parent, I just don't know who I'm supposed to go to. So like I have so many of you that have been great resources for me, but like right now my biggest thing is I don't even know what to ask for on an IEP. So I think like just knowing people's roles, and like I know you just briefly explained everything, but I don't know who to go to say like my child isn't getting what they need, but I don't even know what it is they need. If that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. So we can certainly, maybe that's something that we can do a presentation on before, more quickly, Mercy, and we can kind of brainstorm about the hierarchy of who you go to and when you go to them and how that goes. And Rachel, I'm sure, has a lot of thoughts about that as well.
I would just like Ashley, if I think that's a sincere question that you're asking right now too. So just in terms of pre-presentation, any one of the SEPAC members, if you're looking to have a parent-to-parent conversation, like, before you even come to anybody at the school, just to sort of tease out, because as much as I can say to you and anyone can say to you, we try to make it non-intimidating. We tried this, we tried that. It just is, and it can be an intimidating process. So you can reach out to any of the board members. I think your initial contact through SEPAC is Sasha, and then she would be able to refer you to anybody. But then whatever school, first of all, you can always reach out to me. and I can, if you have a specific question, I can direct you to whoever your building person is. But in terms of, and this is for anybody, if you ever have any questions, I mean, at the basis, that question of, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be asking for, but what I do know is that it doesn't feel right of what's happening right now. That's a conversation. That's a team reconvene. That's because you need to know what it is that you need to ask, and you need to understand what's going on. So that's a reconvene of that IEP team. And that happens at the elementary school level or at any level. You can reach out to your child's liaison, or you can reach out to the principal, or you can reach out, but the person who you typically reach out to is the evaluation team leader. And so all their contact information are on the building sites. So if it's a parent-to-parent conversation, you would start with Sasha. But if it's a conversation of like, you're not comfortable right now, what's going on with your child's IEP, then that's a conversation you should have with those people that run the team process. So.
And maybe that's something we can put together, like a one-pager, Marcy, that provides better, like.
Oh no, we're doing Meg's videos. We have videos. I stole her idea. We were supposed to go to CAM last week. It ended up getting canceled. We will have videos. There'll be pictures of them. You will know where they are.
Amazing.
They will be posted. But yes, I can do a one-pager as well.
That's great. And I do think that I will say, and I have heard that feedback too, especially transition periods, right?
Well, and it's changed. It's even changed from last year to this year. It does change. Yeah. So that's just the reality of like it, because the caseload shifts, who's managing those caseloads often shifts too.
But what should your expectation be as a parent to be notified of that change? So for example, if you go from the ABECC to Thompson School or Atkinson or wherever, who tells you who your new team chair is, right?
Yeah, so the initial contact would always come from the liaison. And so that's a parent's first line. So liaisons, the expectation from liaisons is that within the first week of school, that every liaison has had an email or a phone conversation with anybody that is on their caseload. So any of those parents who are on their caseload should have that contact with the student's liaison. That liaison, I mean, oftentimes a letter will go out, like administrators will send out letters, welcoming letters, but if there's ever any confusion about who that person is, the initial contact should be through the liaison. The liaison will let you know where to go.
And to be frank, I'm not sure that communication is happening, just from the feedback we're getting. There's a lot of parents, especially with those transitions, that are unaware of who their liaison is.
Well, so liaison's the special ed teacher. So that would be, so the liaison's a special ed teacher, and then the ETL is a person who will organize and run the meeting. So
both. Yeah. Both, unaware of both, and certainly don't know who to contact. So I think the videos will be really helpful, and perhaps just further guidance internally about making sure, especially those parents that aren't maybe as tuned in or have as many resources in the district, and know to call feedback. Of course, we want to be a resource too. I think that would be super helpful, and we're really excited about those videos as well.
No problem. And we'll provide those, that just in general sort of hierarchy resource too.
Awesome. Thank you. Rachel, you had your hand raised, but maybe we already talked about it. You're muted.
At the end of the day, if you are not sure, you can directly ask your regular ed teacher, who is my child's liaison? Who do I call? Because also, they are a resource. They are a legal member of your child's IEP team too. So don't let 2 weeks go by into the beginning of the school year. Definitely don't let 4, 6, 8 weeks go by and not know who your point of contact is. The first one is the minute your teacher sends the back to school letter, welcome back. Your child's on a 504 and IEP, immediately that email back to the teacher is, thank you so much. Who is my child's liaison this year? Who is my point of contact to call a team meeting? And that way, if you get into that ritual as a parent, that habit, that way you know. But at any point in time, if you are uncomfortable with anything, like Marcy said, you are also allowed to say to the regular ed teacher, I would like a team meeting. They will get that information to the right people. That sends up a big flag to them. Oh, I got to move this email right along to the right person. So definitely don't ever sit on it, because if you are scared and overwhelmed and don't know who to go to your teacher and say the same thing. I don't know what to do, but they will point you in that right direction.
And I think Christina had a question too, so I'm in the chat. I'm going to read it. Do you still send out the school quote org chart for the special ed department to parents of students on IEPs and 504s? I always found that helpful. So I think that's what we're talking about, right?
No, we do not send that out, but that's what we're talking about right now, is to update that too.
Sorry, I don't have video, but I used to find that super helpful. I know we always got one at Franklin. We always had it hanging on the wall. And it had, everybody's phone number, email, who they were, like what their role was. And it just made it really easy when we had a question. Granted, once we knew who the players were, it didn't be needed anymore, but it was just helpful for us to be able to refer back to who it was that we needed to talk to and have that direct phone number right there and email. So I thought that was really useful.
Meg?
I do agree. I have a hard time remembering what everybody's job is. Like when you say ETL, school liaison.
I know.
So if I had that written like an org chart or something, I think it would help me remember.
Yeah.
So I love that idea.
Absolutely, we can do that.
Okay. So I think that was a great question, Ashley. Thank you so much for asking. Does anyone have any other questions or topics they want us to think about in terms of programming? You can email us again. Meg put it in the chat. hello@northandovercpac.com is the general email, or the executive committee. Our email addresses are our first initial last name @northandovercpac.com. So if one of us is talking about something specific in a meeting, you really want to connect with one of us in particular, feel free to do that. If you have a general question, you don't want it to go to the general mailbox, you can send it to me, or you can send it there. We're all really eager to help. And if we are not the right person, we will get it to the right person within the organization. So really appreciate that.
Just another thing about the hierarchy, because one of the, I think, when reaching out to SEPAC members, you can do so anonymously and have that conversation, but you can also do so in a way that allows them to have some conversation with me or anybody that can then reach out to a parent. I think, which is, I understand a lot of the times those conversations come and they're just, people want to stay anonymous for different reasons. But there's also, value of us being able to have face-to-face conversations with people to resolve some issues too. So either way is totally fine, as long as you feel like you're getting resolve on things. But CPAC can play a great intermediate sort of position. So even that question that Ashley asked, if you didn't know where to start, that's a conversation you can have with CPAC. CPAC would then get in touch with me, and we would get right in contact, or the right people would get in contact with that parent. So that's another way to kind of to be able to utilize the people on your CPAC too, whether you're building people, the board, whomever.
Thank you. Okay, so kind of back to budget planning. So essentially, we'll use some of the feedback we get from parents to then put together our programming for the remainder of the year. A lot of this fall was housekeeping items, which we are definitely making a ton of progress on. We're very excited about. And we're going to continue doing that, as well as programming. So please, you have any recommendations, questions, anything, reach out to us. I also just wanted to mention, as closure, Courtney Pham, the former chair of SEPAC, on behalf of the North Andover SEPAC, filed an open meeting law complaint against the school committee last year in her capacity as chair. It takes quite some time to get those findings back, those rulings back. And we did receive notice. Courtney received notice, although she's no longer in North Andover. It was sent to her home and then forwarded to her new address, that the committee was found in violation of open meeting law. So they found that the chair surveyed members outside of a notice meeting to determine whether the committee wished to consider creating an audit oversight committee, and collectively the committee decided to take no action toward creating such a subcommittee. So what that means is that the SEPAC felt that a certain member of the school committee violated open meeting law in her actions. An open meeting law complaint was filed. The school committee meeting decided to give town council the authority to respond on their behalf. Town council responded that the school committee was not at fault and did not violate open meeting law. At that time, on behalf of North Andover SEPAC, Courtney requested that a ruling be made by the Attorney General's office of the state of Massachusetts. And the Attorney General last week came back with a ruling that the school committee did violate open meeting law, in particular the former chair. So what that means is that what that generally means is that there's some administrative work for the school committee where they have to put together meeting minutes for the deliberation that happened outside of a meeting. And that, they have to further comply with open meeting law. I think the reason why I bring it up is twofold. One, it was requested by SEPAC members that it be put on the agenda. It was also, I think it's important to kind of close the loop with our members that were involved in the, SEPAC was not the only person or group that filed a complaint. Courtney was not the only person that filed a complaint. A complaint was filed by several parents. So I think it's important for the SEPAC membership to know that that complaint was valid. And that now I think it's very clear what the law is. And I also just wanted to kind of put that in the record for everyone to know that they were found in violation and now that matter is closed. And from my perspective, I think that it's pretty clear that our school committee, in particular, the two members that are here tonight, are tremendous advocates for SEPAC and for all students. And I'm really, really excited to work with the school committee this year to move forward from that and to collaboratively work, one, to kind of give information to Urban Collaborative as part of the special education review, and then work together, especially with Marcy and her team, when the findings come out, to find a way as a district to take those findings and then move forward in the best way possible for our students, and to continue to collaborate to be able to serve as many students and families as possible, which is what our goal is. So that is my hope for us going forward. And again, I really thank the members that are here, and also so that the SEPAC membership knows, the school committee has decided and to have one member here at every meeting. Typically it's Alyssa, so thank you, Alyssa. And then another person hopefully rotate, but at least one member, to make sure that there's also further collaboration between the two groups. And we truly appreciate that and that the move towards that. And we really do look forward to working together. So is there any other questions or comments? Or go ahead, Alyssa, if you just.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say thank you. We do have the same desire to work on the same page, and I'm sure Mr. Hicks as vice chair shares that sentiment. And we both are huge advocates for SEPAC, and certainly the rest of the committee will be rotating through to learn more about the initiatives and have that collaboration between us. And we're really looking forward to that. So and we appreciate you welcoming us here to be a part of that.
Thank you. Joe?
Thank you. I think either Alyssa communicated to us or somebody did that, having someone, a continual presence in Alyssa be always here, and have a liaison is really, really important. But we also want to make sure that we rotate through so that you get to see all of the people, because we all play a role. And I truly do value, as a parent of a child on an IEP, I really do value the work that you all do advocating for kids, because even being in education and knowing things, I am still scared going to meetings with my kid, and get nervous and don't always know what to ask for either, because it's a scary thing to do. And so I really do appreciate all the work that you guys do to support our parents throughout the district. It's really, really important. So thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Great. I think that's, for me, that's the end of the president's report, unless anyone has any questions relating to those issues. Otherwise, we can move on to public comment. And this can be about anything on the agenda or off the or not on the agenda. Feel free to speak if you'd like.
Sasha, I just wanted to mention, and I had mentioned it kind of in my little brief intro, but again, the Northeast ARC is someone else who I'm on the advisory board council to, the Autism Support Center. And every second Monday, it's shifted this month with the Indigenous Peoples Day, but it's going to be on the 23rd of October. But every second Monday, typically we hold an in-person support group for families and parents, guardians of children 10 and under. It's at 6:30 Monday nights at the Liberty Tree Mall in Danvers at the Northeast Art Linking Center. It's a great group of people. We're typically there from 6:30 to 8:30. We do talk about a lot of what we discuss in these meetings, experiences in IEPs, strategies, therapies, what's working, what's not working with your child, just venting as a parent, talking about some of the struggles or challenges that you're going through, the positive stuff, what is working really well. So I encourage you, especially for an in-person group, to come and visit us. There is another group that meets on the third Thursday run by Nancy Gonzalez, who is the director of the Autism Support Center for children 11 years old and older. So through, I believe 21 is the age that she talks about in her group. So I will put my email in the chat, and we will also post the flyer with the registration link on our SEPAC Facebook group. But if anybody has any specific questions about it, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Lauren, I'm just looking on their website, but if you have a link that you want to share with me, that would be great, because I'll get that information out too.
I will definitely send it to you.
Thank you. Joe. Any other questions or comments? Please feel free. Okay, well, hearing none, I think we can move forward to adjourn this meeting. I thought we'd be closer to 9. We did pretty good. So I try very hard to keep it close to the agenda for time. If there's nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Night, everybody.